Everyone, I'm Edjuenka. Welcome to Spotlight. The organizer, Nick Willis, and Royal Virgin Islands Police Force Marine Division Sergeant Buckley will be here with us tonight to talk about the just around the corner poker run. And we know that the poker run is a lot of fun, an important tourist product, part of our tourist product that's going to be coming up soon. We'll talk about when that's coming up and all the safety features that needs to be implemented for that event. Also, getting liquor licenses is a really big thing here in the Virgin Islands, and there's been some changes to the legislation. So Acting Permanent Secretary Carol Stout-Igwe, along with Deputy Commissioner of Police Alwyn James and Assistant Commissioner Charles Benjamin of Inland Revenue Department is going to be here to talk about how to get your licenses, your liquor licenses, when they expire, what the penalties are for expiration, and all the safety measures that's being implemented along with the police department and the Inland Revenue Department. So stay tuned for that. First of all, it's Peter Gay with the big stories making the news this week. Peter Gay.
Hi, Edjuenka. Today, the BVI-CCHA held a luncheon at which the guest speaker was Frank Comito. He is the CEO and Director General of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. And of course, the issues were surrounding tourism, and not just tourism in the Caribbean, but the challenges and opportunities being presented for the industry also here in the BVI. Now, according to Mr. Comito, stopover arrivals in the Caribbean are doing well, with 2016 coming in for a 7th consecutive year of growth, and that's good news, up 4.2% to a record of 29.3 million visitors, with estimated spending of $35.5 billion. And it's projected that between 2.4% and 3.5% there will be an increase in arrivals forecast for this year. Now, what are the factors responsible for this growth? This, Mr. Comito says, includes the rebounding of the U.S. economy, displacement in Europe because of terrorism, the opening up of Cuba, but the downsides to the fact that the Caribbean could have grown even more in terms of having more visitors to our shores were stuff such as Zika, political uncertainty, and of course, warm winter in other parts of the world. Now, the Caribbean tourism industry's growth rate that's projected for 2017 is said to be 3.7%, and the BVI is expected to be better than that. And there's even better news for the BVI, as Mr. Comito tells us. Here he is.
Growth rate this year by the World Travel and Tourism Council is projected to increase for the Caribbean by 3.7%. That's all sounds great. And by the way, your growth rate is forecast for 2017 at 5.1%. So you're above the trend line this year. But let's fast forward to 2027. Look what happens globally. 3.9% growth rate versus 3.6% growth rates. So we're not growing, forecasted to grow as fast as the rest of the world. And by the way, note, the BVI is ranked #1 in the world in relative importance of travel and tourism relative to the size of your GDP. That's a pretty impressive figure. I mean, that's out of 180 countries. That's quite... But this is a concern, seeing that erosion of growth, which means that it's a competitive world out there, and that's what we've got to constantly remind ourselves that. We might feel cozy that we've got a pretty good deal going on, and the BVI is just chumming along. We're doing better than the rest of the Caribbean as well. But boy, if we're not on our game, if we're not challenging ourselves to constantly improve in various areas and to make sure that we're viable, we're not going to grow the way we need to.
Edjuenka, now, in spite of the good news, there continues to, of course, be challenges and competition, increasing competition in the tourism industry. Now, Mr. Comito is cautioning the BVI not to get complacent with its product, which it has developed over a long time, and not to overtax. And remember that the issue of overtaxing was prominent during the just passed environmental levy bill, which visitors to the territory will be required to pay. And in keeping with a recent call by the chairman of the BVI-CCHA for a public-private task force. Mr. Comito is also recommending a public-private task force this time around to address the issue of regulating Airbnb, which, as we all know, is the new wave for cheap vacationing these days. Here he is.
Global competition, it's only going to get more aggressive and at every level. So you think you got a niche up there and you're kind of protected? You might want to rethink it. It's not necessarily the case. Our interregional airlift, there's policies. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. There's policies that need to be shifted to be able to help engender that more effectively. Our airfares and the taxation. Governments need taxation, but there's a point where you overprice the cost of an airline ticket, and I've got great research from MMGY that did that independently for us, and it's a law of diminishing returns. You start losing your market share that you can draw from, no matter how high your destination is. I mean, you got a tier up there that is impacted, but many of your tourists do make decisions based on the cost and ease of access to airlift. This rapidly emerged aspect of the accommodation sector presents both challenges and opportunities, as we said throughout there. We, as an association, would like to call for the convening of a public-private sector task force that can look at this to figure out how we can move forward.
So there you have it, Edgewater. Frank Comito, the CEO and Director General of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association.
Well, that's interesting, Peter. Gave certainly some interesting news there. I think that we are perhaps one of the lowest tax jurisdictions in the region as far as tourism is concerned. We just raised the accommodation tax by 3% from 7 to 10%, a tax that's been in existence for 32 years. Now we are having an environmental tax. But when you compare us to a lot of our competitors like Bahamas, Bermuda, Caymans, and so on, our taxes are fairly reasonable. So I think we still have a ways to go as far as getting up there in the area of taxation. What is interesting to me is what was
Airbnb?
that? The Airbnb, where personal people who have homes and small villas and so on can attract tourists in the way that perhaps a major hotel can't. And what's interesting about that to me, while it's competitive for the major hotels, what's interesting about that is that local entrepreneurs and small businesses get an opportunity to cash in on a part of the tourism market that ordinarily they weren't able to in the past. And so that's a good thing, I think, for local business people everywhere, where, for example, I could perhaps rent out the rooms in my house that I no longer use because all my children are gone.
Even a couch.
That's right. I could perhaps build a smaller home for myself and rent out my bigger home. So it provides opportunities for local persons to increase participation in the tourism industry, and I think that could be a good thing.
And that's what he said. Fine, there are challenges because, there's this big hullabaloo about Airbnb and how it's getting in the way of revenue. But there are also opportunities, he points out, and there are also opportunities for partnerships. And remember, too, that what Airbnb also contributes to is this new wave of authentic tourist experience.
Yes. Well, that of course, more and more tourists want to not just come and be just be separate from go on their merry way experiencing the product, but they want to experience the people as well. They want to experience the culture, how they live. They don't want to feel like tourists.
Separated, exactly. They want to be right in the center of the action. What you eat, what you drink, the music you listen to. Yeah.
I think they want the people at the destination to know that, listen, we don't feel above you. We want to come and experience with you what you enjoy all year long. So I think
the rooster crow in the morning.
I think that's a good thing. Good report there, Peter Gay.
All right, and let me remind our viewers, of course, check out this and other stories on YouTube, Facebook, and jtvlive.net.
Absolutely. We're going to come back with Nick Willis and Sergeant Buckley to talk about the poker run. Keep it locked right at the Spotlight. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Spotlight is brought to you by CCT BVI, Life Unlimited, and the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, the official Bank of Paradise.